This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, that's my friendly voice inside the computer that is speaking to each and every one of us to say that we are being recorded. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about printing the scriptures. And everything that I'm going to talk about is related to this text. It's called paratexts. And this is the concept that we're going to work with over the next, every time we meet over the next few months, paratexts. The book was released in French in 1987, and it was translated into English in 1997. And it was proposed by a French philosopher, Gerard Genet, and paratexts. He developed this concept of paratexts, thresholds of interpretation. So that's the term we're going to work with, and we're going to work with this term, and we're going to, by the end of our time of our last session, we'll totally understand this. Okay, so hold on, here we go. So we're printing the scriptures, and we're going to deal with the concept of paratexts. And so what we're going to do over these next few sessions is I want you to think about the physical body of the book. I'm not interested in the content, but I'm interested in the physical body of the book. All right, so that's where we're headed. So we're going to look at concepts like book jackets, titles, signs of authorship, signs of publication, dedications, prefaces, notes. These are paratexts. These are the texts that the author did not create. Okay, so these are generated by somebody else. You may have heard from when college profs or individuals, I wrote a book. Well, that's actually not correct. We don't write a book, we write text. Somebody else takes that text and works it into a book format. They're the ones that give it a book jacket, the titles, the signs of authorship. They will change the titles you have suggested. Even when you write an article for a journal, this is my title. No, we're going to go with this title. Okie doke. So these are other individuals who are a part of the production. All right. So here we are. Here's another book. This is a book I own. It's called Renaissance Paratexts. And this takes this concept of paratexts, the material that the author did not write, but was added to it by the printer. This is a study of the Renaissance paratext, meaning books that were printed in the early stages of the printing press after 1453, how they changed the format of the book. So let's see here, the physical body of the book. All right. So let's look at book jackets and book covers. Let's just take for a few moments book jackets and book covers. Okay, so ta-da! You all know this book. Maybe I had to know it. I had to buy this. I bought it for 75 cents. And my mother, who was meticulous, decided that she would sign my name and then put the date I purchased it. So it was September 18th, 1965. I had to read this book. So in 3 years, it will be 60 years old. All right. So here is the book Ivanhoe. So Sir Walter Scott is dead in 1965. He's no longer around. So somebody designed this book jacket, this book cover for this book. So what do you see?
Two jousters.
All right. The jousters in a tournament. All right, you have this stunning medieval tournament. Okay, so this is action-packed, thrilling. Okay, so it catches your eye, and the terminology that's there, the world-famous tale of romance and chivalry. Ha! And there are the knights. There are the knights on horseback. All right. Now let me ask you a question. Would you, if you were in the supermarket, do you think this book might be available in the supermarket?
No.
No? All right. I might think so. In 1965, it might have been if they were offering books. Okay. But it's something you could find, it would attract your attention. Did Sir Walter Scott create this book cover? No. Somebody else did. Okay. So here's the title page. Ta-da! Look at that. So Ivanhoe, and immediately when you open this, this is a paratext. It's a threshold for interpretation. So all of a sudden you see a knight in armor on a horse, very bold, very gallant, very grand. This is the age of chivalry. That is what is being communicated to you as you begin to enter this book. Think of it as a vestibule. Think of a paratext as a vestibule, something that's going to welcome you and create a mood for you. Okay, so here we have an example of a book cover and a title page. All right, so here we have it. So book jackets, book covers. All right, how about this one? Paul Ricoeur, The Rule of Metaphor, Multidisciplinary Studies of the Creation of Meaning in Language. All right, book cover. So let's look at title page. Would this be a book that you might purchase on a whim?
Oh,
Not really.
Not really.
you'd have to have a PhD to buy this one.
Yes,
Or you'd have to
Yes.
want one.
There you
This
go.
is a school book, college book, or something like that.
Yes, all right. So
A course book, I should.
the publishers know that. So they're not going to waste any time contacting an artist to create
about
an
the Bible.
image for this book
It's
cover.
about the creation of like books,
It's
per
a
Is
se.
it going to come around to the Bible?
So here we go. Here's the title page. So this is for academics. Do I need pictures for academics? No.
No.
So I'm going to just spell out all the details. This is the title, the subtitle, the author, the translators, the press, and then I scribble the date on the front page. I wish publishers would do that. It would make it easier as opposed to flipping the page and trying to dig it out. 1981. Okay, so here it is. So this is an academic book. You already look at it and you know, this is just by the words on the title, but not just the words. How it is presented to you is, hi, the rule of metaphor. Okay, very plain, no illustrations. That differs, that differs from Ivanhoe. Ta-da! In the bold Ivanhoe, the knight in armor. All of this was done by individuals other than the author. And these are extras. These are the added to a book. And so this is the term of paratext, something that's welcoming you into the book. All right, here's a great one. 2009, James Reston released Defenders of the Faith, Charles V. He's on the right, and on the left is Suleiman the Magnificent and the Battle for Europe, 1520 to 1536. This is what saves Lutheranism, for one of the reasons that saved Lutheranism, because Charles V had to compromise with the Lutheran electors and Lutheran princes in order to build his army to fight Suleiman. And in 1529, they were knocking on the doors of Vienna. It was very serious. All right, so there's a paratext. James Reston didn't design the book cover. The printer, the publisher did. And so they created this wonderful moment, Defenders of the Faith. Watch what they did next year. Boom. All right, now let's pull this up together. Let me put this together with its predecessor 1 year earlier. So let's look at paratexts. I've got this wonderful screen, these two faces, fast-paced and engaging. This is excellent reading, the library journal. Ta-da, caught your attention. Defenders of the Faith, but look how they changed the subtitle. Christianity and Islam battle for the soul of Europe. Boom. Yeah, okay, Charles V, Suleiman the Magnificent. All right, if you don't know who they are, it's like, why would I be interested in reading this? But they changed the subtitle. They've decided to tell the author, we're going to change this because if we pit this Christianity versus Islam and the battle for the soul of Europe, we can do it. And so there's a paratext. This is something that's enticing you, waking your interest in a book. And James Reston, in case you didn't know it, he published the book Warriors of God. So here we have this. These are texts, these are extras that the author did not create, that are vestibules. They're paratexts. They're vestibules that welcome us into a book and help us interpret it. Before we turn to the first page, we're excited. This is drama. This is high-pitched. It's all done by color, mood, and what they're doing. So a paratext inhabits the book and the page along with the author's text. The author didn't put them there. It's a device that mediates a relationship, and that's important here. Books, we have relationships with books. Ivanhoe, I had a relationship with that book when I had to read it and write a book report for English class. Okay, all right. So I started rereading it last night. And whew, I was surprised I got through that thing. So anyway, on the third page, extirpate. And I was like, huh? I knew in ninth grade what that word meant. Probably not. So, but there it is. All right. It's a device. So it's a device, a book. It's a device that mediates a relationship between the text and the reader, between the world of the editor and the world of the authors. All right. Paratexts are titles, title pages, signs of authorship, dedications, prefaces, notes, glosses, epilogues. We're going to see this in Bibles. And it's important. Paratext is a threshold, a vestibule, a zone of transition, and more importantly, a zone of transaction. There's communication just by looking at this, all right? So, all right, so here's the book cover. All right, there you go. There's a transaction, chivalry, knights, fights, battles, all right? There it is. Colors catch my eye. The text is brief, but it says something. It's like, this is a world famous tale. Boom. Did Sir Walter Scott write that? Well, he's been dead for a while. All right, here's a book. This is Daily Soul Food for the nourishment of your faith. You know, and these are, this is a devotional book in German, 18th century. And it's built around the epistle and gospel lessons for each Sunday and festival days. All right. So this book was printed. You notice there's a paratext. First of all, the first paratext is the varying sizes of the types. Seelenspeise, daily food, you know, food, soul food, catches your eye immediately because it's larger type, it's bold. The author didn't do that. The printer did that. And notice how that is framed with this wonderful classic sort of scallop shells and vines going down these poles. That's a paratext. And it's framing this. It's making it a picture. And it has beauty to it. This particular book, this particular copy was sent from Halle to Mary Muhlenberg, the wife of Henry Malcolm Muhlenberg. And I discovered it in the library in the book room, and she wrote notes in it. And we very rarely heard from Mary Muhlenberg, but she wrote notes. And so I wrote an article about her notes. But here's another paratext. Across from the title page is usually an engraving, and it's called a frontispiece. Boom. Look at that. So here's Mary Muhlenberg in Trapp, Pennsylvania, you know, just above Collegeville, the next town over. She receives this 2-volume set of soul food, daily soul food. And right across from the title page is a frontispiece. Here is a Lutheran at a home altar, kneeling in prayer, her hands crossed over her chest in prayer. There's a crucifix and there's a prayer book that's open. And she is exercising her call to prayer. So I would imagine that, and it's framed beautifully. It's framed beautifully. This engraving is framed beautifully. This is a paratext. All right. This was added. The author didn't do it. The printer did it. All right. And imagine what it would have said to Mary Muhlenberg in Trapp, Pennsylvania, in the 1770s and the 1780s. And then after Henry dies and she's a widow, and she writes her notes in there. All right. So that's a paratext. And it welcomes her into this prayer book, this devotional book. It's for her. All right. So here's the beginning for the month of June. And you notice there's a woodcut at the top of the page. And then it's wonderful. Here's Mary Muhlenberg writing. Her German is phonetic and her writing is a little scribbly. But what she's saying to me is, heute gelesen, I read today. So she's logging in her prayer, her scripture passages and the devotions. And this is for the Festival of Holy Trinity. You know, there was a man among the Pharisees with the name of Nicodemus. We know that story. So here's Nicodemus and this wonderful, but notice how this text is framed. We have here this wonderful white space that frames the text. The white space is framing this text. I have a woodcut illustration above this. I have this floral, these little floral designs submitted, and this wonderful sort of, it's almost like an illuminated initial that allows you to know that this is the beginning. Here is the beginning. So let's look at this a little closer. Here is the image. Here is the image for the month of June. The month of June, and there's a farmer sitting there with the field, in the field with a house, trees, the sheep. All of this is here. It's wonderfully framed in this moment. It's idyllic. This is a paratext. The authors did not design this. The printer did, to make the book appealing. And so this is a transaction. There's a transaction taking place. What does June look like? Well, the fields, the hay is growing, the sheep are contented. It is a wonderful moment. It's a wonderful moment in life. Welcome to your devotion on the Festival of Holy Trinity. Ah, this one I love. This is for May. This is for the May. This is the third Sunday after Easter, Jubilate. So here we are. This is the paratext. We again have some wonderful white space. We have this image here. And what is this image? Boom. This is fantastic. This is a country estate house. There's a garden with a herbaceous border. There are paths. Right here is a fountain. Ah, this is grand. This is wonderful. This is it. This is beautiful. The month of May, and here you are at this estate with avenues lined with trees, these wonderful walks. And you know what's amazing? Is that as the Muhlenbergs looked at this, as Mary looked at this, she would have no idea what it looked like. Henry knew what it meant because he grew up. He grew up in the German-speaking territories. This is the estate house of a well-known, a landowner, a very prominent, wealthy landowner. They're no longer there. We don't have them here yet. We don't have them here in Pennsylvania. So when Henry looked out over the window, out his window, he saw his own farm. He saw his own land. And so he was reminded of the grand days of living back there, but it's like, I don't have overlords. I am the Lord of what I see because this is my farm and this is what I'm doing. So there are connections and disconnects, but image and text work together. All right. So here's a drawer. This is in the Plantin Moretus Museum in Antwerp. It is a surviving publishing house from the 16th century. I had the privilege of being there for a week and seeing it. And this is a drawer. This is what it would have looked like as they'd opened it. And here they put these woodcuts. Once you have a woodcut made, you're going to use it in other texts as well. So you keep them and you store them in drawers. So this is what a printer does. They will store these woodcuts to use them as illustrations in the book. Illustrations are important. They capture us. They invite us into a text. And Gerard Genet is saying, this is a paratext. This is a paratext. And it's a moment of a transaction that's taking place. Mary saw herself when she opened her prayer book, Daily Soul Food, and there was a woman praying, and it reinforced her call to prayer. All right, so here we are. The year is 1560. You are looking at a first edition of the Geneva Bible, printed in English, printed in Geneva, and then taken over to England. So was the author of Exodus alive? No, long gone, but his text is living on. It's being translated into English. So let's see what are the paratexts here. This is one of the most, we're going to revisit this. This is the favorite Bible of the Pilgrims, not the Puritans, but the Pilgrims. When you see pilgrims, pictures of pilgrims walking to church and they're carrying books, this is what they're carrying, the 1560 Geneva with them. All right, so what is a paratext here? Well, let's look at some. It inhabits the book. It inhabits the book and the page along with the author's texts. So we have the texts here according to Moses, and then we have a lot of commentary that's going on. It's a device that mediates a relationship between text and reader. We have a relationship with the books when we read them. They speak to us. All right, so let's look at some things. Well, first of all, I've got a title, the second book of Moses called Exodus. You know, Moses didn't title, it was just his script. And so somebody said, let's call this the book of Exodus. Okay, I've got an argument. What they're doing here is the editors have decided, before you start this book, let me give you a synopsis of its content. That's a paratext. Okay, I've got a page number at the top. Moses didn't put page numbers at the top of the book. Somebody else did. But what are they doing? They're creating a means for you to find your way through the scriptures. They don't want you to get lost in the Bible. All right. So we have notes, and these are the marginal notes. These are the marginal notes. This is what sent the marginal note in the book of Exodus is what sent King James of England. Oh, it upset him enormously, enormously. So much so that he said, I want an authorized translation. Hence the birth of what we call the King James Bible in 1611. And he dictated, you will have no notes. You may put an explanation of a word and a cross-reference, nothing else. No commentary, no notes, because he got very upset about it. And for here, we also have verse numbers. Moses never gave his text verse numbers. We see verse numbers. Luther never saw verse numbers. Luther only saw chapter and letters, and I'll explain that as we move along. But here's a quest, here's a journey. We have verse numbers after 1551 in the Latin New Testament published in Geneva, and then it became the thing, and the whole Bible received verse numbers. We're going to talk about that. There we are, verse numbers. Wow, you can now say, everybody turn to John 3:16, and everybody knew what you meant and where you would be. You have coordinates, it's the GPS in the Bible, added by other people. Here's the title page. Here's the title page for the 1560 English Geneva Bible. The Bible and Holy Scriptures contained in the Old and New Testament, translated according to the Hebrew and Greek and conferred with the best translation in diverse languages. They really want you to buy a copy of that Bible. This is the first English Bible in our history where it was translated entirely from Hebrew and Greek. Before that, they had bits and pieces, but they were using a lot of Latin and German Bibles through Coverdale as their resource. Here was the first time it was translated, and they're announcing this. We've translated everything according to the Hebrew and the Greek, and we consulted other diverse languages, meaning Latin and German, with most profitable annotations upon all the Lord's places and other things of great importance as may appear in the epistle to the reader. Boom. And then you have this wonderful woodcut. Wow, this is an amazing woodcut. This is frightening. This is the Israelites just about ready to cross the Red Sea. Pharaoh's chariots and horses are coming after them, and they're between a rock and a hard place, as I described. They're between the rock and the hard place, and the sea hasn't opened yet. So a moment of mystery, a moment of suspense. There it is. So paratexts are important for our study of the history of the printed Bible because they function as windows into the minds of the editors.
I didn't catch that. Try tapping about to edit.
I'm sorry, my phone is talking back to me. So there we have it. So there are windows into the minds of the editors, and that's what I want us to talk about and look at. I want us to look at that. It's a lot of fun. Why? They're commercial strategies. They're commercial strategies, which is great. You know, they give you the mind. We got to sell a book. We've got to sell a book. So we're going to do you these things. Oh, I hope that's not God. So here we are, stated differently. For our study, we want to take into account both the physical production as well as the selection of an arrangement of texts. So underlying this approach is the presumption that every change after the publication of a 42-line Gutenberg Bible was a conscious and calculated act on the part of the printers and publishers and other financial supporters, you know, that believed buyers would be attracted to these changes. So what we have in our hands is the result of printers, not the theologians. They give us the text and they've arranged it. And it's a wonderful odyssey over the first 100 years. So, all right. So what do I have here? Publishers, paratext, or we will also call it a paratext. The title page, construction, cover material. Is it vellum? Is it paper? The typeface. Do I use Gothic? Do I use Roman italic? Format. Folio, quarto, octavo, duodecimo. Boy, I'm speaking a language that I have to explain to you. So let's dive into this because the format's going to tell me a lot about the physical construction of a book. And when I look at a book and see its format, I know where it's headed. So let's look at this. A folio volume, a sheet folded once, producing 2 leaves or 4 pages. So if you take a piece of paper, fold it in half, you have a folio. If I take that piece of paper and fold it one more time, in other words, twice, I now have 4 pages, 4 leaves, or 8 pages. Ah, that's what we call a quarto. If I fold it again, I've got an octavo. And if I fold it again in a certain way, I get a duodecimo, which means I'm getting 12 leaves or 24 pages. All right, so let's make this a little more concrete, shall we? Folio, fold it once. Boom, I fold the leaf that's come off the, I fold the leaf once, I've got a folio. Fold it a second time, I have a quarto. Third time, I have octavo. And now if I do it correctly, I can also get a sexagesimo, which is a 16mo. So let's look at that physically. Here they are. Here they are. These are the books. If I went into the rare book room. Here's your folio. This was a leaf, came out of the printing press. I folded it once. It's going to be at least 18 inches high. Okay, can be taller. It's going to weigh about 30 pounds if it's a large one. So, okay. So if I fold a leaf 2 times, I get a quarto. This is a book that students would buy. This is the format you could carry with you. You did not take a folio to class. It's difficult to take a folio in your backpack to class. Folios, when you show me a folio, that means this book is headed for a lectern or a library shelf. It is a reference book. It is a book you are to read in place. You go to it. It does not come to you. That's a folio. All right. The quarto is this book that students would buy. That's a fancy binding for students. Most were just plain old cowskin. Okay. And so they would buy these. They were less expensive. And you take these to class with you. The octavo, that's where I folded 3 times that leaf out of the print. I've got it designed to fold 3 times. Boom. That's Ivanhoe. The book Ivanhoe, the paperback, that's the size of about an octavo. These were books that were designed for you to sit back in your easy chair or lie back on your chaise lounge and read. You take a folio and lie down and hold it up and over your head to try and read it. It will fall on you in a few minutes. Okay. And when I taught class and we would do this, we brought these books out. I made sure, I told my students, you will wear shoes. Sandals and sneakers are not permitted in class because if that folio falls off the table, it will survive, but your foot may not. So wear shoes, all right? These are huge volumes. So there we have these wonderful little books. This is a copy of the 1541 Luther Bible. It's a folio. It weighs 30 pounds. So people tell me, well, Luther wanted us all to read the Bible. We'll talk about how much it costs, but this was intended for the lectern in a church or a library or university. It was not intended, you went to it. After 1525, after the peasants used the Bible verses to justify their behavior, Luther said, whoa, I need people to interpret the Bible for people. We will put a copy in every church on a lectern, and you can come and read it, but you need somebody to help you understand it. Luther wanted everybody to read the Bible. That comes later. That's a part of pietism. All right, so here's our folio volume. Some of these volumes that end up in libraries, they get chained. They get chained to the desk, so they couldn't be circulated. You couldn't check them out. And we have one of these in the rare book room in the Krauth Memorial Library, and there it is with its chain fixed to its cover, and there it is. It's just great. So are you beginning to understand how I'm approaching the Bible? I want you to see it's physical. I want you to just use your eyes and describe what's right in front of you because it tells you a lot. There's a lot going on here. The Bible is a number of books that were written by different individuals who were speaking on behalf of the divine to a chosen people. Readers may or may not acknowledge that the writers were inspired by the divine, but they wrote in the name of the divine. And the term Bible is actually a Greek neuter plural noun. It really means it's a books. The Bible is books, biblion, books. What we have in the Bible are books. So it's a little library, all nestled up in one volume. A library of books. Okay, so when we say Bible, we're talking about the library. All right, so where does the term Bible appear? Title, cover, spine. How is it presented? How is it highlighted? When you see that word printed, how is it printed? What else is on that title page? You have a favorite Bible at home? Open it up after tonight's session. What's on that title page? What are they telling you? What are they giving you what are they saying to you? So let's see. Let's start here. Let's look at a title page. Let's move quickly. Here's a 1501 Bible. It's a folio. It takes 6 volumes. Each weighs 30 pounds in order to complete the entire Bible. That's its title page. And we're going to learn to read it in the next session, not tonight. That's all there is. Because that was the manuscript tradition. Printers just printed it and said, here's what we've got. Here's what we've got. No pictures, no illustrations, no date, no publisher. That goes somewhere else. It's at the end of the book, the colophon, which means summit. You've reached the end of the book. You've reached the summit of the mountain. Here you go. Oh, here, I'm the printer. This is my town, and this is the year. They hadn't learned yet to move this over to the title page. That's coming. Isn't that interesting? Here we have this wonderful, unattractive title saying, here's the Bible. All right. So here's a title. Here's a title. Some of us had to read this one. The life and strange, surprising adventures of Robin Crusoe of York, mariner who lived 8 and 20 years all alone in an uninhabited island on the coast of America, near the mouth of the great river, the Orinoco, having been cast on shore by shipwreck, wherein all the men perished but himself, with an account how at last as strangely delivered by pirates. That is the full title for the book that you know as
Robinson
Crusoe. If you put that on a title page today, well, that would be like, oh, right. But in 1719, that's how they shared this information for you. They piqued your interest. We sort of already know the story of Robin Crusoe, but when it's first appearing, they wanted to entice you to buy a copy of the book. They set up the drama. It's sort of like the miniseries. It's sort of like the beginning, the song to the Beverly Hillbillies, where they sing out that little song, And so it's here. This is what is called a synopsis title. Everything here, trying to whet your appetite to come and buy this book. They did it here, but they did it a little more attractively in 1560 when they had the English Bible, the Geneva Bible. There it is. We give you all of the contents. This is a synopsis title we're giving to you, but we've done it a little more. We have a little art going on here. We're using different fonts, different sizes of type. We're using an illustration. And we tell you on the title page now, 1501, we didn't tell you who printed it, where it was printed in the year, but by 1560, we do. And we're trying to entice you to come and read the scriptures. Come, be immersed in this.
According.
Yes. According, yes, they were working on these things, but here it is. Here it is, 1560. All right. Dedications are a part of this. The Geneva Bible, dedications. You know what dedications are. The Geneva Bible has a dedication. This is the dedication in the Geneva Bible to the most virtuous and noble Queen Elizabeth, Queen of England, France, and Ireland, your humble subjects of the English Church at Geneva, with grace and peace from God the Father through Christ Jesus our Lord. We have dedicated this to Her Majesty the Queen. Mary Tudor died in 1558. Protestants were persecuted. Protestants were martyred. Protestants fled to Frankfurt and to Geneva and to other places for shelter. That's where they started working on this particular English translation of the Bible. And they stayed in Geneva. A group stayed in Geneva to make sure this was completed. And now they're taking, I call it the Exodus Bible that has to cross the English Channel, just like the Israelites had to cross the Red Sea to come to England. And they're hoping Elizabeth will grant sanction to it. Mary Tudor would have had them all burned. But they're hoping Elizabeth will. And she's referred to in this, she's called Zerubbabel. They are comparing Elizabeth to Zerubbabel, the one who rebuilt the temple in Jerusalem. And so they're hoping she will rebuild the temple of the evangelical church in England and endorse it. And she does. But this is a paratext. They're writing this, and they're writing this dedication. The authors of the Bible didn't write this. They've been dead for thousands of years. They're doing this, but they need to. They want to. So this is a wonderful moment in the history of scriptures. So I'm just going to go through how you print a page, and then I'll stop for a bit. All right. The art and craft of printing a page. If you came into the Krauth Memorial Library, there is this huge lithograph hanging in the hallway. This is Caxton's printing press in England. He learned the art in Bruges in Belgium, and he brought it to England. And so here's a typical printing press, a publishing house in action. All right, so watch what happens here, and then you'll see what a skill it is. So let's look at this little group of men down here. They're on the right-hand side. All right. So what have I got here? This gentleman, he's ducking because the lever has been released, and if he doesn't, he's going to get hit in the back of his head. So what is happening in this corner of the printing press? This gentleman is reading text. He is reading text. He's just saying the words. And the person here is called the compositor. And he has a compositor stick in his hand, and he's moving the movable type into the stick. Each word, okay, each word. His thumb, the left-hand thumb, is doing something very important. That is a very important function of the compositor. Can the compositor read? We don't know. All he needed to know was the letters that might have been called out to him. He might have learned some words, but they may have just called the letters out. And he's dropping all of this into a compositor's stick. All right, and here's a gentleman who is taking that type and putting it on a form where we're going to lock it down with some rope and secure it so it can go through the printing press. All right, this gentleman, he's the inker. He has got this thick pasty ink that he is rolling the balls, these print balls, this thick pasty ink, he is rolling it, making it liquidy. And then he's going to just roll it across the movable type and ink it up, okay? We were taught this is not leather, this is dog hide, dog skin that was used for these balls. They were filled with cotton wadding, cotton fluff inside, okay? But it was dog skin. Why did they use dog skin? Because dogs only sweat from their tongues. And so it was a wonderful way of creating something that was a bit more waterproof and wouldn't absorb the ink. So that's how we were taught what that was made of. All right. So there he is, inking them up. There we are. See there, right down there, right under the press, a puppy, a dog. He may be the backup for if one of them breaks. All right. So he is inking. What is he inking? Here's what the compositor has finished. They are in the form, and they are now locked down, and that's going to slide to the other side. He will ink it, and then and the prince here is putting a piece of paper that's going to be laid on top of it and rolled under the platen here. Where does the technology come from? A wine press. What you see in a wine press is what they will adapt for the printing press. Gutenberg did not invent the printing press. Please don't make that mistake. Gutenberg invented movable type. They had printing presses before, but it was done on wooden blocks. An indulgence is a great thing to carve out all the letters and the spaces. You can do it, but if you want to change the text, it's cumbersome. So Gutenberg is the one who invents movable type. So here we are about ready to go to print. And that's what a piece of movable type looks like. Boom, it's a little thing. All right, here's what it looks like if you want to give it all, if you want to describe it in all its little pieces. Remember I said the compositor, the left hand, the thumb was moving up and down. He's running his finger through a nick. For each font, the nick will move. It's in a different place. And so you have 50,000 pieces of movable type in a case, and you're picking up the type. Did somebody put it in the wrong box by mistake? You can check it by running your thumb, and if it goes through all the nicks, you've got the same font, and you're good to go. All right, so here we are. This is Greek. This is Greek. We're going to start printing in Greek. In 1516, we're going to start doing that. That's Erasmus of Rotterdam. That's what the printers have to have. That's what they must create. Two pieces of metal so that the omicron that sits top the alpha sits neatly over it. So we can create this text. This is high technology. To create that A with that diacritical mark over it, I have two pieces of metal that come together and will be put in the form. This is sophisticated technology. Boom, there's the compositor's box. There it is. That's the one in Wittenberg. That's the compositor's box where all those little pieces of metal movable type are stored. All right. That's what it looks like. That's a compositor's box usually. That's what it looks like. You know, there it is. Now, the compositor's box is a part of our English language. If I want to write I say capital A. What is another way of saying capital A? I can say uppercase. That's this part. The uppercase of the compositor's box contained the capitals. And then you have lowercase. So this is a hangover. This is a hangover from the era of the hand press era, where the compositor is picking out pieces of type. Uppercase, I got to reach up for it. Lowercase, it's right in front of me. There it is. All right. Lowercase, uppercase. Neat. So here we are. We're going to ink this up. We're going to run it through the printing press.
It was over here.
Let's see. Oh, I go this way. All right, here we go. So we've got this, the reader, the compositor, the person who's setting the form. There's the compositor stick. All those pieces of movable type, get in there. And he's running that finger across through the nick to make sure I've got the same font, no mistakes. Here we go. Or am I going the wrong way? Oh, there we go. No, I've got it right. So here we are. There's my forms. This is two forms. One side I have page 1 and 4. That will be printed. The leaves will dry. I will then turn them and put them back, and I will put them back to print pages 2 and 3 and 2. So that when I open this up, I will have a complete print on both sides. Okay. So there's what it looks like.
Wow.
Form will look like when it's all locked down and ready to go into the press. Okay, this is a major work. This is high technology. Boom. How do I make movable type? Well, I go to a silversmith and I ask him for punches. He's going to create these punches out of iron. And then I'm going to buy myself some copper matrices, and I'm going to put a punch on it, take a hammer, and I'm going to, with all my strength, punch, and I'm going to create the impression in this. And then I pop it in a form where I'm going to pour tin and lead. I'm going to count to 5. I will open it, and I have all these wonderful pieces of movable type. I will break off these handles, put that back in the pot to remelt them, and then I'm going to take all of that and put it in my compositor's box. This is a working printing press in Antwerp, where they were showing us how they did it. They will pour the hot tin and lead, count to 5, and then they will drop the piece of movable type onto the table and put it into the box. Compositor's box in Antwerp. This is what it looked like. Boom. So here we are, the Mr. Compositor sitting there, putting it all together. There's his stick. And then that will be dropped into the form, tied up. They will lock it down with pieces of wood so that nothing shifts in there. This is a work of art. And there it is, the printing press. This is Caxton about ready to print a page. So here we go. We are going to print a page, and there's all the anatomy of a printing press. Paper goes here on the timpan. There are usually 2 nails sticking out. You push the paper on it, and you drop the frisket. The frisket is a piece of cardboard. All that's going to do is prevent any ink from smudging up those beautiful white margins. That's empty space. That is created by the frisket that drops over it. You pull it off, it dries, you turn it around, you put it back on the same holes. You have the exact position. You drop it down on the stone underneath, pull it, the platen drops down on it. You press on the platen. Boom, this is it. These printing presses are attached to the beams in the printing house, because when you pull, that thing is going to move. You have to exert all your pressure to bring that to bear on the printed page. This is what it looks like. Here are 24 presses that would have been used in Antwerp, and all of them connected to the beams of the printing house. So here we are. Here's a picture of a Bible. Whoa, there's a picture of a printed Bible. This was an early exploration of, they're not verse numbers, they're coordinates. And I'll explain this in a little bit in the next few weeks. But look at this. How does it start? Incipit. Here begins the book of Genesis. Okay, so that's how manuscripts did it. That's what they're doing here. We'll start this, but printers are going to change that method. All right, here, down here, you see that? The letter A. Letter A is very important, because I turn the page. Here's my letter A. the bottom of the page, I turn the page and I have A2. So that means when I have this printed, I have to fold the paper so that I fold it correctly. I'm going to see A1, A2, A3. And usually if you get those three together, we don't need to any further initials. Why do I have to do that? Because the next gathering is going to be called B. Okay, so I'm going to move, the next gathering is going to be called B. So here's my B. And the next one, B2. Ta-da. Why do I do this? The printers have to do this. This is a paratext. They have to do this. Most books were sold unbound. They just handed them the gatherings to the customer. The customer went to a separate binder. Occasionally, believe it or not, it happened to the best of people. They dropped it on the ground and they had to reassemble it. The binder doesn't have time to read the book, to reassemble it. And so they look for these letters. These are called the signatures. And so they knew A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they kept going down the line. So they could reassemble the book to bind it correctly. There you go. So here we are, B, B2. Ta-da. There's a paratext. Very complicated. This T-I-O-N-E, it's called the catchword. It's the catchword. The next word on the next page as you turn it should begin with those letters. That's the catchword. So you knew you had everything in order. You didn't want anything out of order.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. So here we are. We are now constructing a book. We know the processes. Here he is. This is the person, the binder. This is the binder. This person has to take all of these gatherings, sew them together. And he's got his elbow on them, resting on all these gatherings, A to Z, and he's got these heavy cords. These heavy cords will be bound in this. There they are. They look like decorations. They're the spinal cords. If I take that off, because this one was loose, there I see the spinal cords. And that's where all the gatherings are tied and then snipped. It's a work of art. As we construct this, you have to know how hard, what labor is in creating a Bible, the printed Bible, the bestseller. This is what's all involved in it. So here you are, you see the spinal cords, and then I'll add a cover to it. And this one's elaborate. They had some wonderful stamping on it. They had some money and they wanted everybody to know they had some money. So they had their book, their cover of the Bible stamped with these wonderful stamps and then some gold leaf put on top of it. So, people of God, wow, I'm going to stop the